So, is this up? Can you hear? Okay, yeah, okay, I can hear it. So, hi. Okay, now this is I'm already tripped up. It's the first time I have a clicker, so it's amazing because it has a laser on it, so lasers are cool. But I'm gonna click it by accident, so yeah, I'll try not to do that. Anyway, I'm from Belgium, which is pretty near to here, as you may know. I now live in Zurich, Switzerland, and doing mostly PHP, JavaScript stuff. I contributed quite a lot to Symfony a few years back, and since then, Composer has been taking a lot of time, so yeah, not so much Symfony anymore, but that's it. So first of all, I was wondering, because I usually read tweets, and usually about, like, from Laravel users that are like, they seem very confused about what Composer is, and like, not what it is really, but whether it's part of Laravel or not. And like, how many of you think that, you know, this Composer is only used by Laravel? None? Okay. Maybe you're shy after what I said, but I don't know. No, I mean, it's fine. I get it, because it's just a tool, and you know, it's introduced by a framework that you use, and you don't really realize where it came from necessarily. But yeah, it actually is used by many other frameworks by now. So, like, yeah, usually the comment I see is like, "Oh, I didn't know you could use this, like this library outside of Laravel, for example." And yeah, like, if they are not Laravel plugins, or I'm not sure how you call them, you know, it's just a library. You can use it anywhere. But obviously, you should use Laravel for all your projects. So, no, I actually don't know anything about Laravel, so this is pretty cool for me. Like, I was pretty curious to come here and learn some stuff, because yeah, I have no idea really. So now let's dive into the topic. First of all, I would like to just go into a few typical use cases that are maybe like misunderstood, or just that people don't realize they can actually do. The first thing, and that's where I usually shoot myself already, is trying to distinguish install and update, because yeah, it's a sort of simple thing once you know it, but it's extremely hard to explain in a way that you just don't end up mumbling and like confusing yourself more than you should. So I'm gonna try. So I mean, is everyone clear on install and update? Do you clearly understand the difference? No? Yeah? Like, who doesn't? Who thinks they do, but they really don't? Okay, yeah, we'll see. Maybe at the end you'll realize that you actually didn't, but we'll see. So, really, I think the main issue is that people think about packages, and they want like to update this package or install this package, but the way Composer works is not like per package. It just manages the entire dependencies of your project. So when you run install or update, you tell it, you know, install my project or update everything in my project, but it works at the project level, and then Composer itself will decide to do an install or an update or removal of anything that doesn't match the state of the project as it should be. So I think that's the main thing to kind of understand, and I'll leave it at that before I go and confuse you more. So recently, I think a couple of weeks ago, we introduced this global command. So this was a long time pain somehow. I mean, it wasn't so hard to do yourself, but it just wasn't supported natively. It's like the use case of having, you know, global command line utilities like PHP unit, let's say, if you don't want to install it in every project, if you just want to have it once on your machine. This wasn't very easy to do. So now it got a lot easier. I'm gonna use the laser. So you can just use this like global command, and it works as a prefix to anything else. So I guess some commands don't make sense to run globally, but it's just like it's a proxy sort of that will just execute stuff in a global directory instead of your local project directory. So if you do a composer global require and then some package name and a version, you will install that globally. So I think this PHP CS fixer, if you don't know it, I think it's a better use case than PHP unit, because PHP unit, sometimes you need this particular version for this particular project, because traditionally they broke like backwards compatibility in every release. Nowadays it's gotten better, but whatever. But this PHP CS fixer is just a utility, right? It's if you don't know it, it just like formats your code. In some ways, it fixes some like code formatting stuff, so it matches to PSR1, PSR2, and like you have a few more config options. But it's a really cool tool to have at hand, and it doesn't really matter. Like, it doesn't depend on your project at all. So it kind of belongs in this global directory. And then all you have to do is just once add this this vendor bin directory to your path. So on Linux and OS X, you can add that to your .profile or .bashrc or whatever file you use. And on Windows, you have to add this somewhere in the settings. It's just I mean, it's not hard, but I can't really explain it in one line. And that's that. Then you can run, like, as I said, any command. So doing a global update will just update all your global packages. All right. Now, sometimes it happens that you use something and it just has bugs in it. You know, it so happens. So, like, what you should do is obviously report an issue. That's already a good start. But if you also can fix it yourself, it's even better. But then once you fixed it, you end up having the problem that you want to use your fix before it's merged, and sometimes someone is on holidays or just doesn't care or whatever and doesn't get merged. It takes a while and it's annoying. So Composer allows you to just use a forked package fairly easily and just define it like that. So for example, in this case, if I fork Symfony because I found a bug, I would just use my fork as a URL there. And this type VCS defines that Composer should load that as a Git repo, SVN repo, or whatever. And then you see that here it actually, like, it didn't change, right? It's still the Symfony package. Like, you don't need to rename it at all. Just by declaring it, it will take priority over packagist stuff, which is like, it's declared implicitly under it, so it will just override it. But yeah, usually you do patches in a branch and not in master, so you most likely will want to use this dev mypatch, which would be the version created for the mypatch branch. And yeah, that's cool and all, but then let's say you're using Laravel, and Laravel probably requires Symfony in version 2 point something, like 2.3 point anything, or I don't know what. So this dev mypatch doesn't match the requirement 2.3. So there, what you can do is, okay, let's do 2.1. You just alias it, so you say, okay, I require dev mypatch, but I require it as if it was actually 2.1.0. And this way, Composer will just create like a fake version of it that's a kind of mutant, and it will match the requirements of Laravel, and it will actually install still your branch. So everyone is happy, and it installs. And I will drink because I feel sick. And I don't have a video in my slides, but I don't want to pass out in the middle, so or have my voice run out on me. Okay, so now you have all your private packages with all your forks and patches and stuff. Awesome, but it's getting painful if you have too many of them. So Salis allows you to, like, concentrate all the things in one place, so that you don't have this situation where every project would have like some private stuff you need for this project, and then you need to redeclare it everywhere. And maybe you will rename this this secret bundle thing to like just change the name of it, of the repo, and you need to update the JSON files everywhere. It's a bit of a pain. So what you can do if you use Satis, you just move this stuff into a satis.json. You install install Satis. It's very easy. And then by running the build command, it will just take all this stuff and build like a composer repository. So that will be like something like Packagist. You have your own mini Packagist. And yeah. So now in your project file, all you're left with is just this like one repository that contains all your private packages. So you just like you can require them and they're all there. So this saves you a bit of time. And then you can also define this in the global config. So if you do that, like this, the way this works is like implicitly there is always in the global config you have Packagist is defined there as a repository. So you can add some more there that are like available in every project, because like Composer always loads this file first and then your local project one. So if you define it there, it's available everywhere, and in the end you're just left with this, and it's completely transparent. Now, yeah, there are ups and downs to doing this last step, and I think it depends a bit on the exact use case, but it's an option, and yeah, you can consider it. A quick word on deployment and like project build. First of all, who of you do not commit their composer.log file because they think it's garbage? We have a couple back there, they're honest. I don't know, not so many on this side. Yeah, it's very shy hands. I'll take it. Yeah, so you really should commit it. I'll get back to that in more details a bit later, but just take my word for it and just commit it. It's not gonna hurt you, and yeah, it will help. And then you have this like just Composer install with -- no dev, which also changed like a few months back. Before it used to be no dev by default, and now it's not anymore. It's not just to annoy people. But yeah, so this disables the require dev block. So if you have like dev requirements, usually you don't want them deployed to the server, so you don't really need that. Okay, now I'm gonna go through an entire like install or update run and kind of see what happens, and yeah, just like random things and tips and tricks. So first of all, it loads so it's gonna load your Composer JSON and run those like pre-install, pre-update, or pre-whatever command. So those are the scripts you can use to, I don't know if Laravel uses them or not for things. Maybe, yes? Yes, we do. The boss says yes. So I'll take his word for it. So yeah, and then out of this, like the root package is basically your Composer JSON. Like it is always a package, even if you don't put a name, don't have a version, it is considered as a package, and it has dependencies, etc. Like it's just like any other package. So here we already have some sort of distinction with like those that don't commit the log file. So on the first install, or when you run an update, it's like there is no log file. So if you run an update, even if there is a log file, it just ignores it. But on the first install, you don't have one either. So So yeah, that's that. So in that case, it will just like run through all the requirements plus the require dev if needed, and just create like requests for all this stuff. Then we have this sort of optional step here, which is like on update. It's kind of a hack because when like a dev master version is just the master branch. When you make a new commit to the master branch, it's still called dev master, so it's the same version really. So by default, the solver would just like the dependency solver, it sees, okay, we have dev master, we need dev master, all good, don't update anything. So there we do an additional check and see if there is actually new commit available, then we just force an update to that. And then if you do have a log file, whether it's from a previous run or whether it came from someone else's commit, in this case, it just completely ignores the requires in your composer JSON and only loads the entire composer.lock and requires everything that's in it. So in this case, you get like the benefits I was talking about is that you get this, like the certainty that what you get is actually the same thing that the last person installed or like updated or whatever. Like it gives you a consistent state. So if you run like install 5 times against the same log file, it's always going to do the same thing. And if you wait 2 days and you install again, it should be the same thing. So that means if you run an update and you get new dependencies and you check your project still runs, once you committed your log file and then deploy, you know that on the server it will have exactly the same dependencies as you had. So nothing will blow up by like magic because someone released a new version and you actually never tested against this and there is a regression. So yeah, this really, you should commit it. In addition, what you get is performance, because it doesn't like scan every package and packages to see if there is new stuff or whatever. It just runs through this list, installs that. It's like it takes 5 megs of RAM and 2 seconds, versus an update which with large projects can take really a lot of time. So especially if you have those like Amazon Micro instances or just small VPSs with low memory, you can have problems running updates there because it just like blows out the memory completely. And so if you deploy correctly using the log file and an install, no problem. Then it creates a package pool, which is like, yeah, a big bag full of packages we put in. Whoa. Oh shit. Okay, minor technical issue. So first of all, the platform repository, you can see the packages with the composer show command. You have like a few modifiers that show you this or that package. So the platform repo represents like your PHP version, the PHP extensions you have, some PHP libraries, like, well, not PHP libraries, but libraries that are bundled in PHP, like PCRE for regexes, some libxml stuff, etc. So you can actually require those packages or those extensions as if they were packages. Sorry. Then the local stuff is installed. So I also have a bit fever, I think. I'll drink some more, maybe it helps. The local repos are loaded in the pool as well. So the local repo is what was previously installed on in your vendor directory. Then you have this locked repo. As I said, on install it just loads that. It's actually a huge JSON file. I mean, you probably saw it. It's not pretty and it does a bit ugly diffs sometimes, but it does contain all the information. Then we have the custom repositories of your project, then the custom repositories in the global config. And finally, package list unless you disabled it. Okay. So this is like a whole lot of packages. And one thing I forgot to mention, like when it looks for packages, it kind of goes top down through this list. So like as soon as it finds one, it will kind of win if you have the same version present in multiple repos. Okay, so then we have those stability filters, which are also another source of minor or massive confusion, depending. So there are really two things that apply there. There's the minimum stability, which is just the minimum default level that applies to everything. And so if you set it to alpha, for example, by default it's stable. If you lower it to alpha, it means that whenever it adds a package to the pool, it checks, okay, is this package with like more or less stable than the minimum stability? If it's less stable, it just throws it away, it doesn't look at it. So if you require stuff that is in like unstable versions, you should probably lower this. Otherwise, it just won't find it and you get these weird errors and it tells you, go look at this URL, and then most people don't and report errors, and yeah. We try, but it's not easy to report these kind of problems because yeah, at this point we kind of forgot completely about the packages. So. Then there is like the per package stability flags, which allows you to, like, it's really the same concept, but only applies to this one package. So you say Acme Foo can be like in dev version, in this case, with the @dev or @alpha or whatever. Yeah. So in the second variant, the rest can still only be stable because we don't specify minimum stability. Okay, then we have the solver. We had the request, which was created in the beginning, with like requesting all the packages we need. We have the pool that contains everything. I just shake the whole thing until hopefully some stuff comes out and it's not an error. Then there is some sorting that happens as well, which is like, you know, generally we take the latest available version. Like by default, it will really take the latest, like the highest version, which if you allow dev dependencies, it's always gonna be dev master because that one resolves to like 99999. Like it's the ultimate latest version always. But there's a switch for that, so you can, like, if you'd rather have everything dev, like allow stuff to be dev, but you don't want everything to be installed in dev master because that's kind of, yeah, I mean, it's dangerous because you always get the latest of everything. And it's cool to be bleeding edge, but it's called bleeding for a reason. So by using this prefer stable true, you actually tell it, okay, like you can use stuff that is unstable if needed, but if you have a more stable version, then just use that. And out of this, at the end, we have a list of operations, which can be, again, like install, update, or remove. Then for the operations, we have a few switches that can be interesting. So there is prefer source, which does a, like generally it's going to do a git clone or svn checkout or hg, I don't know what. And so that just forces it, like by default it will use the source stuff for dev versions and the dist stuff for the tags. But you can force it either way with prefer source or prefer dist. So this notion of source dist in Composer is really like source means sort of the VCS repository, and the dist is a zip archive or something like that. Obviously, both are just PHP source, but then you can use dry run. So dry run on an update, for example, if you just want to know if everything is gonna blow up or not. Like this shows you, okay, it's going to update this. Then maybe you think, okay, we're going to release in 2 hours. Let's just not do this right now. But that said, with dry run, you can always, like, if everything is blown out, again, with committing the log file, you can just git checkout composer lock that erases all the changes. You do a composer install, and you should be back to where you were before. So it's another good point. And finally, there's verbose, or like you can have 1 V or 2 Vs or 3 Vs. That shows you like from a lot, like a bit more information to a lot more to debug garbage that you don't want to see. But yeah, so for example, like if you use source releases and you do an update with -v, you will see the exact commits that have been pulled in, like from the previous version you were at to the current version. So that's kind of cool way when you go for bleeding edge to keep up to date with the changes and stuff. Okay, then finally, if like once everything is done, if nothing errored out, we just write a new log file. So on update. Then you can commit it. I really insist on this, I know, but it's just such a shame if you don't. Then there's a little detail there that if you change something in the composer JSON that is not directly relevant to the requirements, you can have this problem where it tells you, composer.lock is out of date, because it just sees that it changed since then, but doesn't know exactly what changed. So yeah, it will tell you this as a sort of friendly warning. You can either ignore it or you can do composer update lock, and that just does an update without updating anything. It just like updates the hash of the composer JSON into the composer lock. Then there's the autoloader generation, which does a lot of like, yeah, insane things. Then if you use the -o flag, you get more insane things, and it's hopefully faster. That, like, to be honest, it depends really on the cases. Like right now, it just does. It converts all the PSR0 style autoloading to a class map, so it will just scan your entire project, everything, just find all the classes, and like dump a massive array in some file that contains a class name to file name map. So that's cool because the lookup for a class name is super fast. You don't need to loop through directories anymore and check if the file exists. On the other hand, loading this file, which can have like 2,000-3,000 classes in it, can take some time. So it's really a balance, and it's very hard to say if it will always be faster or not. Like, I would say probably, but it's hard. And hopefully at some point we'll have more strategies to optimize so that you can kind of pick the one that's more relevant to you, but that's more long-term goal. Yeah. Then finally you have those post-install, post-update scripts. If you need, you can disable them with no scripts. So because I don't know how it's done in Laravel, but I know in Symfony we have some scripts that run in the dev environment, and this tends to freak people out because they're deploying in production environment and they don't want to run the stuff. So an easy way to get around that is to just disable all the scripts and then run the commands you actually need to build your project for production. Like obviously you wouldn't want to do that in development because it's a lot of typing, but for production, hopefully you have like a deploy script or a build script, so you type it out once, it's not such a big deal. And if you need, you can also just run a script by hand. So finally, some words about troubleshooting. Just, because there are problems sometimes. So when GitHub is acting up, which lately has been too often, I guess, you can usually use this like preferred source or preferred this depending on which part of GitHub is down. Hopefully it's not everything, but sometimes, yeah. I mean, right now it's the best way. I'm working on something to kind of, yeah, protect people from this GitHub being down problem. But it's still gonna be a few weeks, I guess, before I can announce it. Then for just random problems that occur, first of all, running self-update is a good idea because it gives you the latest version. Sometimes the latest version has a regression, so that was causing your problem in the first place. That's tough luck. It happens. Like, we try not to, but then there is this diagnose command since a few months, which will run through a set of like common problems and give you solutions if it can find anything. So that's mostly like network checks, proxies, and stuff like that, which were really a pain to debug. Like when someone comes and says, "Hey, nothing works," and then it takes you half an hour to figure it out. And after a few times of doing this, I thought, like writing a script for it is actually a good idea. Then you can update your dependencies because also sometimes people come and report stuff which are like not really composer problems, but like the dependencies have bugs and somehow it happened near, like close enough to a composer update, so they come and blame us. Yeah, so it's always a good idea. Then if still nothing is running, you can try to wipe the entire vendor directory. Sometimes this helps. Like it's not, hopefully not needed anymore so much, but once upon a time, it was yeah, a frequent problem. And then finally, if really you can't figure it out, then feel free to report a bug, but please then do a full run with this -vvv, and then you get probably like 1,000 lines of output, but at least it enables us to kind of see what went on, and just like it saves a lot of time of back and forth on GitHub issues. Yeah, that's that. So, few links if you don't know about these, but I guess you probably do. Just on IRC, there are a few helpful people as well that are usually around. There are the mailing list, but it's very low traffic. And otherwise, if you need to report issues on either Composer or packages, you can find everything on github.com/composer. So that's it. Thank you. So just a repeat act. Hold your hand up for a while if he doesn't see you.
Hi, it's me again. Do you run Packagist as well?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not independent at all. Okay. Just wondering if you have any strategies sort of in mind for cleaning out things on Packagist that are sort of dead and outdated, and because there's a lot out there that's gone basically.
Yeah. I agree. It is slowly becoming a problem. I mean, we try to sort things in search results according to like some popularity metric, which right now is kind of the amount of downloads in the last month or something, so that hopefully like stuff that is really not used anymore will kind of drop off. But it's a hard problem. So yeah, I mean, people just produce, and yeah, nobody's interested in coming back to clean up their mess. So yeah, if you have ideas or want to help, sure. But I don't have a clear plan for that.
All right, so I got two questions. They're really quick ones. The first one is, okay, so in your root composer.json file, you require 2 packages. All right, each of those packages has the same dependency but a different version. Mm-hmm. Okay, so say you require Laravel framework and that uses Symfony 2.3, but another package that uses Symfony 2.4. You know that both of them work with 2.3 or 2.4, just so happens that nothing breaks. Can you override that and force it to use the one you declare is okay for your app?
No, not really. Like without hacking things really badly, no. But like the thing is, and the reason I don't really want to go there is that if really it works with both 2.3 and 2.4 in both dependencies, then just send a pull request to fix it, because otherwise you force everyone to work around the problem. So
yeah, cool.
But one note maybe just regarding that, I didn't mention it, but there is this tilde operator for the requirements. So it's like, for example, saying tilde 2.3 would do it just means like minimum 2.3.0, but up to like a non-inclusive 3.0. So it just means like the last digit of the requirement can go up. So with semantic versioning, this is really the best way to go for libraries, is to just require like a minimum version, but allow stuff to go up, because usually they shouldn't break things.
Yep. Okay, and the second one, we get a lot of, like at Cardless, we get a lot of people saying, when you're updating, Composer takes so long to, the first time especially, once it's recaching all your repos and all that sort of stuff. Maybe you could just give us a real quick run through on the process that happens, talking to packages, downloading your packages.json, and just a real quick rundown of why that takes a little bit longer than than installing, I guess. Yeah.
Quick rundown.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we do this later in like the not quick version. Now, I mean, I think, let's say, just regarding the pain point of speed, there are two factors. One is CPU time, which is just very hard to like improve on. And the other one is GitHub, which is fairly easy to improve on. And that's what I'm working on, because like there at least I know what to do. Like giving you a faster CPU or performance-wise, there's not really much we can do, I think. Maybe I'm wrong, but the problem is just that it sometimes has like 50,000 packages or whatever, I don't know what, just, with all the versions, it has to check like many things against each other, and it's just an extremely complex process. So, yeah.
All right, I have a question over here. It's about a pre-install commands, scripts, and things. Is it possible to have like designated or pre-install command scripts for development and for production and for every environment you want?
No. You're not the first to ask, but I think it's still at the stage where I'm waiting for someone to actually come with a good excuse why they need it.
Maybe deployment or whatever.
Yeah, but that's the problem. It's usually like, yeah, maybe I need it for something. And I'm like, if you don't have a good use case, I'm not going to do it.
At the moment, but I was just like thinking about it. So.
No, I mean, I agree. It might be nice, but until now, everyone managed without, it seems. So if I can avoid adding more code to maintain, I tend to just say we'll wait until a good use case comes up. Sorry.
So when I'm working on a project, I tend to make abstract components in almost every project that I work on, and they exist in separate directories. And usually the process that I have to go through when I make a change in that component is, update the component on GitHub and then do a composer update. First wait for packages to actually read that, that package has been updated. So what I would like really is a way to point a specific dependency to a directory in the file system. So is there some way for that in Composer?
There isn't. I say no a lot. But yeah, I mean, there is a plan, and I think there's maybe a half-done pull request for it.
Okay.
for having like some sort of link command like you have in npm, for example. But I would say, like, just as a workaround, what I usually do is, because it's also easier to test things, and not as in unit testing, but just to see if it really works in your code, is to just work in the vendor directory. So I just like go in the vendor directory, open the files, and just, you know, when I'm done, I commit it there. Like if you install with source, then it's a Git repo. Like it's as good as being anywhere else on your laptop, right? So
cool.
yeah, that's another hack. Like, I mean, no. I mean, it's another way to work around it. I didn't mean like it's an
can you
awful
repeat
hack.
what he said? I didn't hear it.
So he says if you add an autoload in your like main composer of JSON, you can add saying that this package is actually autoloaded from this directory with an absolute directory to something. Not actually sure if it works, but maybe. Okay, works for him. He approves. Yes, whoever is. I don't know. Okay.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah. What do you think about? You got things like Bootstrap. I think jQuery is on packages. What do you think about that being on packages?
Man, you guys are mean. Like it's just.
No, well, it's
like
a PHP.
All the bad questions.
PHP library. You know, that's the.
Yeah,
it's the PHP
I know.
library. So what do you think? Can you kick them
no.
off there? Or can you delete
No,
them off there?
I see what you mean.
You got Bower for that sort of stuff.
Exactly.
That's what
Like
Bower's for.
usually, what we do internally, like in our project, is we have Bower or npm, and like in one project, I think we had a chain like on post update of composer, it would just call npm update, and then that one would at the end call a Bower update, and like you have, so you run one and just everything updates. Yeah, I mean, I know there is no good reason for stuff not being able to be installed via Composer, but the problem is, like if we pick one, like if we say bar is the winner and we use that, then we're stuck with this. Like, you know, I don't want to have to maintain stuff for the next 10 years because we thought it was a good idea and it turns out half a year later it's not. So, yeah, that's why until now I've been just like delaying because this whole like front-end package management stuff is, you know, like a year ago you had 5 new ones and it was completely unclear what was going to happen. Now it seems like Bower is more or less winning, but you also have like, I don't know, there's something new that came up like a couple of weeks back and they were like, yeah, finally something good, and you're like, what the fuck, guys, just settle on something, because it's a pain. Like, the thing is, yeah, I would love to integrate something like, you know, so you could define a repository that instead of type composer would be a type Bower or whatever, and you just say, okay, like go find Bower packages at this URL, and we build support for that, and so you can like cross require stuff from PHP packages to JS ones. That would be awesome, but
no. But my point was like you end up with, because typically you want the vendor directory outside the web root, yeah.
Yeah.
Typically, so then you've got people using Composer to install things like Bootstrap, and that ends up outside the public, and then
and then they end up sim linking stuff.
Well,
and
it's just a mess. So, like your view on people using Composer for assets sort of stuff, like
right now, I think it's crazy, but I know people do it because they want to, and
it's easy.
Yeah, maybe it's easier for them. I don't know. I don't agree because I don't think having symlinks all over the place is like fun, but. So also I develop on Windows, which doesn't help with the symlink thing, but I don't know. Like I don't have a good answer. It's just I think right now it's not there yet. We have plans for that as well. Like it's all, you know, kind of ready. It's just someone has to do it, and also it has to be a good timing somehow, like so that we don't end up in a mess. But yeah, I'm rambling, so I'll just stop.
Just quickly going back to you're talking about kind of the speed issues before with Composer, which was kind of notorious for in the kind of the beta days of Laravel. Looking at the kind of speed improvements you can make, and looking at other package managers such as NPM, which uses Node for asynchronous loading, all that kind of stuff, is there any, I guess, kind of move or something in that direction for PHP? For example, maybe using threading or something to, be able to do kind of trees of packages updating at once, or?
We could do it actually. Like, I mean, I'm not gonna go into threads with PHP or like forking processes. Just like no.
Just Node in the background. Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, sure. No, but one thing we could do is with curl, we could do like a curl multi and like to at least download multiple files at once. That said, yeah, I don't know. Like the thing I'm working on right now hopefully helps with that as well, because it should like allow you to have a sort of like proxy cache, whatever you want to call it, maybe in your office or in your data center that's like close enough to you that you actually get decent download speed, so it doesn't matter so much anymore. Was there someone else? Or? No. Okay.
All right.
I guess he's gonna throw me out anyway. So.
Well, thank you.
Sure. Thanks.